It's a new adventure. Just for you.
Huge thank you guys for coming out tonight. And a huge thank you to you guys for the years of work to get this thing on screen. I actually want to jump backwards and talk a little bit. I mean, it's a little generic, but like, how did this thing get off the ground? How did it happen?
Well, Blur's been around for 30 years. What we mostly do is game cinematics. That's kind of what we're known for. Dave joined
2002.
20, yeah, a long time ago. And made some of the best game cinematics, like the Star Wars cinematics and Mass Effect and Halo. Fuck, there's just too many to count. Yeah, a lot, yes. And Warhammer 40K, what?
I'm like, you can use the mic.
Oh, sorry. And so we did Love, Death, and Robots, and this was seemed like the spiritual successor to that, to play to our strengths.
How many years ago did you actually get started on this?
I started, it was late 2001, but I think...
This project.
Yeah, Secret Level.
Yeah.
2001.
Oh, shit. It's been a long time. 2021.
So if I can ask, so 2021, you guys come up with the idea. How, like, when did it get greenlit? Like, how long did it actually take to, beginning to getting this thing on screen?
It was a weird thing where we had the idea, and of course we talked to the obvious people like Netflix, and it was just such a I know this is stupid, nobody wants to hear about this, but it was a legal fucking quagmire of IP entanglements, and the lawyering was more of an achievement almost than the graphics. But so Netflix didn't want to do it for that reason, and Amazon said, "Yeah, we'll fucking do it." So here we are.
Yeah, I want to give a huge thank you to Prime Video. I know I need to always say Prime Video. Forget about Amazon. It's Prime Video.
It was a strange thing that they believed that we could do it. And I do think that I love my company, but I think that we were kind of the perfect people to do it because we could point to Love, Death, and Robots, and it takes a lot of trust for the IP holder, the game companies, to say, yeah, we'll let you take our prized possessions and run around in the street with them. It takes a lot of trust, and we had earned that trust because we've been in the industry for a while.
Yeah, I actually want to know the building of the infrastructure to make this for the first season. How much did you rely on the infrastructure you had figured out for Love, Death, and Robots as a way to bring Secret Level to life quicker because you'd already figured out how to do those? You know what I mean?
We just reinvented every time. You'd think we'd figure it out, but we don't. But it is very much it is a lot of the same studios we work with, who are the same studios that we've sort of competed with for 20 years for all that game cinematic work. Digic in Budapest, Unit in Paris, Platige in Poland, Illusorium in Spain, Axis in the UK. I'm forgetting somewhere. Goodbye Kansas in Sweden. So there's a lot of those are the partners that helped worked with us on Love, Death, and Robots. Some new, but I would say the biggest difference is obviously there's the added complexity of the games themselves. But other than that, like the pipeline that we've developed of Love, Death, Robots is pretty much the same thing.
So, man, I have so many questions. So the first season is 15 episodes. How did that number get figured out? Was it?
It was actually 18 at one point. Where those three episodes?
It was supposed to. It was supposed to have 18.
So it was going to be not. Did you always know it would be a split release, or was it going to drop originally 18 at once?
You know what I want? I've wanted a split release on this show since I was talking to this guy from Collider who told me, Tim, the data seems to indicate that a split release leads to more viewing and lets word of mouth build. I can't remember who that guy.
He's a fucking dick.
He's
that guy. You know.
Yes, it was always a split plan. We actually wanted to release it in 3 drops, but it worked. It sort of worked out better this way.
Steve, I'm just going to say it now because they already said no, they won't do it. But he gave me this other great fucking idea, which was to do Love, Death, and IP to Netflix. To basically go and say, give us all your failed IP. Or your super popular
Well, now
stuff.
they're definitely gonna
super
make it.
popular IP.
Well, but there was some like Mark Miller's thing that just didn't take off, but it's a great comic. And
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I'm spacing.
it's they did one season on Netflix
Yes.
of this show,
Yeah.
and I can't remember the name of it either.
or Cowboy Bebop or all these other shows. Steve's like, go raid their IP library and do new episodes in that IP. And I thought, oh, it's fucking genius. And they said no.
I don't know what to
That
say.
happens a lot here. You go in and you go, hey, I had this great idea, and they go, yeah, no.
I have so many. I'll leave that alone. So you decided. So was it eventually was it Prime Video that said let's do 15 episodes, or was it you guys? Like, because I'm so curious. You obviously were given a budget to make the first season, and I obviously don't know what costs per episode. But did it work out so 15 episodes was sort of like we can do that for the number that we're given?
Yeah, it was essentially that. Like, you know, it's amazing. It all starts with, like Tim says, you go in a room and you're like, hey, I want to make the show with all these games, and I think we're going to make 18 episodes. I think the first season of LDR was 18 episodes, and we can make it for this much money. And then 3 years later, we're actually making it. And we're like, and a lot has changed in those 3 years. So we had to figure out a way to make it work, and so we basically had to drop 3 of the episodes to figure out how to get the other 15 made.
I have a lot of season 2 questions, but for now, I just want to know: were the 3 that almost were made, are they being punted into season 2?
No.
No, some dropped organically. I don't. Are we not allowed? No. Okay. All right.
And that voice was Anna at Prime Video saying no.
There were some that fell out because of undue lawyering or shit like that. Yeah.
So I want to know, when you're pitching the first season to all the video game IPs, what was it like? What was the ratio of people that said yes to no? Because, you know, you're asking for a lot with no, you know.
How many people rejected us?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, did you go after certain things and they're like, get the hell out of this room?
I don't know. Is Greg here? Greg, do you maybe you have a hit percentage or EP that did all the pitches with me?
It is tricky because it's not like we're the first folks to realize, like, hey, these video game IPs are awesome and we should turn them into other things. So a lot of them have like pre-existing deals, which sort of, and that's the sort of beauty of the series, is that being in the series doesn't Prime Video essentially just puts the episode on the platform. Everything else, the characters we come up with, the storylines we develop, like, they belong to the developers. So there was no sort of land grab for the series, which I think is incredibly forward thinking for Amazon. So, which is weird, and I think because it's so new, a lot of the sort of development executives who have these existing deals set up at Netflix or somewhere else, I think the natural inclination is like, this is going to get in the way of everything we're doing. When really, it's, if there were some IPs that we approached that were having like a real big moment at that time, and sort of Hollywood had come a calling, and 3 years later, nothing's happened, and we were going to make an episode for them, and it was going to be awesome, but you know, Hollywood happens.
I admit I get a little chafed when I read online and they're like, hold on, these assholes took Spelunky when they could have taken Halo, or, you know, something like that. And I'm like, man, you think that we didn't talk to Halo or something? It's not like we wanted Spelunky.
It's good to know 20 years in, you're still reading the comments.
Well, I read a few. I consider it market research, Dave. But you know, it's not. There's no black and white choices here, and it's not like we could just have anything we wanted, or they were all available, or there's lots of different reasons. And so it, you know, we did the best we could with and I love all the games that we have, and there's so many more games that we could have. That's the trouble too, is that we could make 10 seasons of this and still not run out of games that we like.
I would like the big one that I like. Creative director at id is a good friend of ours, and and so is folks at Microsoft. So we made a big plea, because one of the things both Tim and I would love to do is do something that isn't currently available in the games, like crossovers. Like we wanted to make a Master Chief Doomslayer like crossover episode, and it like I spent a whole weekend crafting this impassioned letter of my childhood, and it's exactly what Tim said. They were like, no,
and of course we begged half for Half-Life, and of course we, so you can imagine.
Yeah, but I also think that the fact that it's what you put on screen is so good, and it's already doing so well. I'd like to think that the other companies will be like, oh wait, this is actually pretty cool.
That's because you think like a nerd, Steve, and those companies. I have to say, game companies have a much higher nerd component than like, say, your average Hollywood studio, which is why we love doing games, because generally you run into people that they just fucking love their job. They're there because this is what they want to do more than anything else. And there's certainly those people in the studios, Anna, wherever you are. But
you were sleeping.
But you do have a higher percentage of those in the game companies, which is why we love them.
Yeah, but that's also why I'm saying that maybe in season 2, or God, if you're lucky enough to do season 3, it will open doors to things that you couldn't currently get.
Yes, but even despite what I said, there's still a lot of lawyers. But I'm hopeful. We're hopeful that it opens doors.
I was looking online, and anyway, some people are, one of the complaints, if you will, is that the episodes aren't long enough. So talk a little bit about why the episodes are the runtime.
Look, we want them to be longer too. Like
money, and our. I just want to do really great animation. I don't like, you could lower the budget and do more time, but I don't want to do shitty animation.
Our sort of 5-minute episodes are sort of reserved for our Indian nostalgia titles, right? So Mega Man, Spelunky, Pac-Man, Sifu, and so yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I'm sitting at the end of the Mega Man episode ready to go, and I'm probably like everybody else, that I just hang my head because I want to see where he's going next. But like, if it, like, I will say, like, it's not our franchise, but the sort of love we get from Capcom about the process and how much they love their episode. I wouldn't care if, like, no one else, they are so proud of it, and a lot of the fans in our team who grew up playing the game too also love it. When that music kicks in, like, Rob Cairns, our composer, who does almost all the episodes, is incredible, but when that music comes in at the end, like, yes, I wish it would keep going too.
So how much are you thinking about, for now that season 2 has been announced, is there any chance of continuing one of the season 1 episodes, or do you envision it being all new games?
There's a chance.
You say that like you actually know. They believe you. Like, we don't know that yet.
I do know. I do know that, Dave. So do you. Don't play coy. But we wouldn't say it because that would be no fun. I'm just saying there's a chance. I didn't say there was. I didn't say it was happening.
Well, I mean, like, you never.
Yeah, there's a chance we could get struck by lightning when we walk outside too. So,
fucking Tim. I'm trying to look at my questions. So, did any of the people that you reached out to for season 1 that turned you down, have they called and said, "Oh, actually, maybe we want to do this"?
No, but I did get an interesting call from the Borderlands folks which really made me pleased. But now you can do Borderlands the way it should be done.
Was that, I could be wrong, but was that Kevin Hart, the voice?
And that's his daughter, Heaven Hart.
Oh, I did not. Yeah.
Who came to the Borderlands set one day, and I met her, and she goes, "Oh yeah, Deadpool, cool." And I said, "Oh, well, have you watched our other show, Love, Death, and Robots?" She went, "Oh, that's your show, Love, Death, and Robots. This is my favorite show. And she knew every fucking episode. And then she asked if she could intern for a writer. She wants to be a writer. And she just so happened to look exactly like Dave's concept art for the Playtime episode. And I said, yeah, well, it's not creepy. I mean, or maybe it was. I don't know. What you want to explain, Dave? Go ahead. Go on.
Do I want to? I didn't design her. Lexi did.
Well, she looked a lot like the concept art. And so I said, hey, you've done any acting? And she said, a little. And there it was. Serendipity.
Dave, how did you decide which episodes you wanted to direct?
When I came on, the very first thing I wanted to do, I don't know if everybody knows this, but the entire Unreal Tournament episode was done in engine, which is something Tim and I have wanted to do for a very long time. So
Which is in the first drop.
When I came on, I was like, I want to do that episode. And Tim was like, oh, shit. I already promised I'd give Frank, who's the creative director at Blur, that episode. So I was pissed for about a week. And then, but I wanted to do... I'm greedy.
Dave wanted to do all the episodes.
I'm greedy. So, and I'm a big Warhammer fan. I've been painting the minifigs since I was a kid. So I knew I was going to do that. And I've been begging for 20 years to do another. We did a Dawn of War trailer in like 2004. And so since then I've been wanting to do another Warhammer thing. And I picked Sifu. I just finished playing the game and I loved it and I wanted to do that. I couldn't, timing didn't work out, so I couldn't finish it. And then honestly, I wasn't planning on doing the Armored Core episode, and it's going to feel like I said, I want to do that when Keanu said yes. It didn't work that way. Peter Watts, who's one of the authors, wrote this amazing short story that was bleak and dark. Peter's wrote this book series called Blindsight, which is amazing if you haven't read it. So he wrote an amazing short story, and that was, when I read that, I was like, that's the other one I want to do. It's very, like, I love, like, broken heroes, like, you know, Jeremy Renner and Hurt Locker, or Elizabeth Salander and that sort of thing. And the pilots in Armored Core are these weird, broken characters. And I like, my favorite version is of, like, what Armored Core would be is, like, mech Top Gun meets Drive. Like, what's Ryan Gosling and, like, that. It's just a perfect marriage.
It's more like Train Spotting.
Yeah.
But yes, just to let you know, the Armored Core episode is in the first batch of episodes.
Oh shit! Sorry.
Also awesome,
and it's fantastic.
Dave showed up late for today's screening, ladies and gentlemen. So
I am curious. So the first batch hits. I'm assuming you two, after working on this for so many years, went online just to see what the hell people were saying. And I looked, and people are, if you haven't seen, they're pretty happy with that Warhammer episode. What does that mean to you? And, like, talk a little bit if you've been reading what people have been saying.
Dave and I only read the bad reviews. That's the way.
It's not
terrible.
you read everything, but you'll scroll quickly through 200 of them, and then one negative one will pop up, and you will obsess over that, and you'll walk around for weeks with it in your head. And
as the reviews started coming in, Dave would come down to breakfast, like when we were in Brazil. He'd be like,
"This is gonna be
man." Yeah, that's it. That's my Dave Wilson. It's just you read because
it's surprising that 20 years later,
because it fucking hurt. Because I can't do a South African accent. The 20 it just feels like you work so hard, and then you read these bad reviews, and you get, like the fucking Variety one where the woman says, "Now I haven't played a game since 1995, but my opinion is," I'm like, "Fuck you."
1990.
I'm like, "Fuck you." You don't get an opinion, you know.
But
this is not for you.
But she didn't like Dune either, and that.
I know she didn't like Dune, or the IGN guy who shit on our series, and then in the comments somebody said, "Fuck you, you didn't like Penguin either." So you don't get a vote.
I will say, if you didn't like, the Penguin's fantastic, and also
that was amazing.
I've said this many times in many public settings. I will say it to you guys: Tim Miller is not someone who likes anything, and so I'm giving you another so the audience understands what's the last few movies or TV shows you've loved.
Dune.
Okay, and
that's it.
A bit. We got to go reach back to Gladiator, right?
Yes. which means
it.
Don't go to Gladiator 2. if you feel the same way.
Like I said, though, he's very hard. Like he comes to some of the screenings, the Collider screenings, and I'm like, after. So what'd you think?
I don't recommend.
We watched one. I think the comment was that was the death of cinema.
Wait, for a secret level?
No, I don't know.
What movie was it?
I'm not gonna say. I can't remember.
I can't remember.
Even if I could.
But Sonic 3 is great. No.
Yeah, actually, Sonic 3 is the best one that they've done.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It was great. Yes,
it's real good.
To answer your question, though, it felt great about the Warhammer stuff. It's very difficult when you love a franchise as much as that. The only thing like you want less than sort of not seeing more like great adaptations of the material is to be responsible for a bad one. So like I was very nervous the day it came out, but it's been good.
Dave was nervous when he showed me the layout, the animatic version.
I wonder
of it.
why.
But so I watched the thing, and it's long, and this is in layout, right? So it doesn't have all the beautiful stuff that you will see if you watch the first episode.
Some people in the theater watched the first batch.
I saw a lot of hands up though that said they hadn't watched it. But anyway, I watched the Dave's thing, and I said, I got nothing. It's perfect. It's a fucking masterpiece. I love that. There's some of the best shots that Blur's ever done in Dave's Warhammer piece.
Yeah,
Thank you, Timothy.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
the Warhammer is it's real good. Also, if I'm not mistaken, and I'm being sincere with that, is Warhammer coming, like Prime Video's developing it with Henry Cavill, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I guess more Warhammer will be coming to Prime Video.
That's the hope.
Right. So I think for a lot of people that don't understand, maybe you can explain. Let's talk about the Armored Core episode, which has Keanu Reeves. How did you guys get Keanu, and what did it actually mean when he agreed to do it? Like, what is his involvement in terms of, like, is he coming to the studio? How long is he working on the episode? Can you sort of take us behind the scenes on what it really means when someone like that signs on?
Disbelief is the first thing, because I was sitting at home and Tim dictates into his telephone, and I get this text message.
I have very fat fingers. It's hard
so I get this message: do we have anything for piano? And I'm like, what does that mean? And then I'm like, oh, it's Keanu's there today. And I'm like, and we'd cast most of the episodes. There wasn't actually a lot left because he'd been he was meeting Tim for another project, and all the artwork is up on the walls. And he was like, "What's this?" And so there were only a handful left, and the one that like we had just actually got the story in was Armored Core. So I texted back, "What about a junkie mech pilot?" And then didn't hear anything for like an hour, and I was like, "Well, guess not." And then Tim texts back and is like, he's in. And I'm like, bullshit, he's not in. And then the next thing is a video of Keanu Reeves just going, what does he say?
I said, junkie mech pilot. And he goes, junkie mech pilot, I'm in.
No, he just goes like, I'm in. And that's it. And
junkie mech pilot.
Yep. And then I'll tell this story because like you hear this all the time around town, how wonderful he is and how like prepared and kind and generous he is about it, and he lives up to all that hype. Like and I thought at some point like the facade's going to fall, and the truth to never meet your heroes is going to come out. So 2 weeks before filming, we get this email, and it's like, Dave, Tim, I got some bad news. I've fractured my kneecap, and blah blah blah. And I'm skimming to the bottom of the email where he's going to tell me he can't do it. And he's like, but like I've learned all my lines. I'm off book. I can take the brace off I can shoot for 5 minutes at a time, and we can blah blah. And I was like, oh my god, he's still going to do it. And so I'm like, don't worry about it. Keep the brace on. We'll give your character a limp and a brace,
which was genius.
And he shows up, and about 2 hours in, I can tell it's hurting, man. Like it's very recent. His knees about the size of Tim's head. It's big, and about 2 hours in, he's like, Dave, and I'm like, do you want to come back tomorrow? He's like, let's just shoot it all now. And I'm like, what? And he's like, and he shot for 13 hours straight with that, like, and he doesn't leave set. He just nips out, has a cigarette, comes back in. He's like, let's go again. Amazing human being. Like, I mean, like you should be so lucky in your career that someone will show up at the sort of upper echelons of the town and just do it because they love doing it.
He's fucking great. You know, but also, who has seen the Armored Core episode? Yeah, so like the way that you guys incorporate the brace of his character actually makes
it was
the character.
Genius. It was cool. It was super cool.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Also, the ending of that episode.
And I know
He also, like, he was sick. He was not any, like, you could tell he had a cold. So a lot of like the runny nose and cough and everything, all the same thing. Like, it's not acting. He shot through it all. It was great.
What do you think would surprise fans of the series to learn about the making of the series?
2,200
2,500 people
worked on that
the
on the show. Yeah.
20 countries, 2,500 artists, or I would say from start to finish, like from inception, 4 years. It takes a long time.
I would also say that, I mean, like I was going to say, I don't know this qualifies to answer your question, but like Keanu and Arnold and Kevin Hart and all these guys, normally if you were doing a show like this, you'd want to like maximize the celebrity value, but we don't pay a lot of money for that they love games and they want to be in games and or they want to be part of the show because it looks cool, and they do it for the love of the show because they're all super fucking rich, but for that we don't make them go and do shit like this. Like, we do that shit, right? Because that feels like the gift of that you give to a celebrity, which is you don't have to be a celebrity, right? You can just do the thing that you love, and not have to deal with. Not that I don't love this, I do. Believe I do. But you know what I mean. We didn't ask him to go to Brazil.
No, totally.
To
Arnold's episode is also fantastic.
Those videos
first
kept
batch.
coming, by the way. The next week, 2 weeks later, was one from Arnold Schwarzenegger working out. Same thing. Dave, whatever you want. That's terrible Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonation. He's like, Dave, whatever you want me to do, I'm in. And then next week was another actor. And then eventually, like, we were out of roles. And I had to tell Tim, could you please stop having your friends send me their tapes?
Yeah, which happened on Ed when I had breakfast with Ed Skrein, and I told him he didn't get a role. And so he made a tape that said, Dave, fuck you.
Actually, he didn't say that. It was 5 minutes of, I drove across town to have lunch with Tim, and again, you got nothing.
Yeah, you got nothing, so fuck you and your shitty show.
Yeah, season 2.
Ed will be in. Ed will be in another. He's a great guy. He was Ajax in Deadpool, if you didn't know. Because all these celebrities just coincidentally happen to be in projects that I worked on.
When did you guys realize? When did you find out? Oh wait, Prime. This is a pretty big hit for Prime Video.
I have no idea, but there's this one for me personally. Like Tim was going over to Fincher's house to talk about something to do with Love, Death, and Robots, right? And
I like the way they just casually drop Fincher's name.
So I'm not David's friend, and that sounds bad. I didn't mean it like that.
Count yourself fortunate.
And Tim went over to his house, and he opens the door, and the first words out of his mouth were, "So the series of that secret level series of yours is going to be a hit, I hear." And that was when I was like, I started to believe.
But that was long before it came out. In answer to your question for truly was, what's today?
No. Wednesday.
We got a call Friday that said, "Hey, it looks like the show's going to do well from Amazon." Yeah, I mean that was the.
When did it? I don't actually remember. When did it come out? Was it last
the day we
Tuesday.
got back from Brazil? So Tuesday.
Okay, so it was a few days. Yeah, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, and even then though, no offense, Anna, they're very cautious with the it's trending positively. That's That's
I was
all.
looking,
That's all.
and when it came out, it was #1 on the platform above Red 1. And I'm like, okay, what the F is going on? And then it's been below Red 1, but Red 1 is another level. Like, that shit is crazy.
It's a movie. That doesn't count.
Yeah.
Give us $250 million, and we'll show you some.
Or just
serious
125. 125 is
Yeah,
great
give us
too.
half. Just give us half. Yeah, because we know you secretly control the Amazon production budgets, don't you?
Well, I mean, like, for people that don't realize, generally with a streaming show, it's a month in that they start like figuring out whether or not they want to renew something.
I think it's longer than that.
Well, like a month is like the minimum for when, you know, but
They contractually have 3 months to tell us if they're going to do another season of Love, Death, and Robots.
but that's what I mean. The
So
fact
you're
that-
sitting around like with a stick up your ass for 3 months waiting. Like, are they going to give us another one?
But this is what I'm basically saying. It came out, and like
terrible.
days later, they're like, "Oh, we don't have to wait. This is big enough."
I've never experienced that until now.
Me neither.
Yeah,
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. It's awesome
So,
because Prime Video is awesome.
so where are you guys? Had you been thinking about with season 2, like, the development of that, hoping that it was going to happen? Because I think one of the problems with streaming shows, or just streaming, is just the long break between seasons.
Yeah, it's that even if you're lucky enough that your show goes all the way up to release and it's just a 3-month period, it's not that bad. But like most of them wrap a couple of months before, and all your crew they can't just sit around and wait, so they all disbanded, and it's terrible because you don't want to. Especially on a show as complicated this, or on Love, Death, and Robots, it's like it's not exactly plug and play. It is a very, very complicated show that, like, especially when it comes to like crew that understands like the intricacies of how all that animation works, the writing, and writers who are like JT Petty, our head writer, like all the different hats he's wearing every day, and all the notes and rolling with all of that. When you get a sort of renewal that quickly, it means like everyone is still around. Like you can get the whole band back together, because like you don't want to have to rebuild every time. It's heartbreaking.
Well, what I'm just
On the downside, Dave's very tired. There was like no break. I mean, this was right at the fucking finish line. We barely made it.
yeah. When did you actually finish the episodes?
I think 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. The last one's rolled.
But that actually no, it was 14 weeks, because Prime Video requires many months of ingest and localization. It didn't take 2 weeks. I take that back.
Anna's like looking at you like, did she just text you that information?
No, we were like a couple of the episodes went right up. And when I say that, we just post, so we would color and sound.
I spoke to the Duffer Brothers for the last season of Stranger Things, and they told me that the day that the episodes were coming out, they were uploading final VFX shots, and they'd populate into the Netflix system within 24 hours. So if you started binging at like the second it dropped, you would see like the 95% version of the VFX, and the final VFX would be like within 12 hours.
That's cool.
That's how far that...
You hear that, Prime Video? It's like a live update.
But that happens. That happens in the movies too.
Oh, they
where
still
you'll go
do?
like the final effects. The tweaks on the final effects shots are coming, and so in North America it's fine, but in Slovakia, they get
We were talking about that the other day. Did they
Some
have they
unfinished
replaced the
VFX shots.
Starbucks cup in Game of Thrones?
They fixed that.
They
yeah.
did.
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
updates.
So my thing is, you did 15 episodes in season 1. With season 2, is there an element in your brain where you're like, let's do 8 episodes and get them on sooner? Or, you know what I mean? Like, so there's some sort of, it can maintain like every other year or whatever the hell the release date will be. Or is it sort of like we want to keep doing a similar amount and do what you did with season 1?
I mean, we have many ideas on how to sort of gaming as a sort of calendar has 2 big dates. It's the summer and which is the same most. It's Hollywood too, but like where E3 used to be, and obviously now at the end of the year, it would be great if we can have something for the summer too. Like, but honestly, we haven't even fully wrapped our head around this part. But it would be great to get to have more.
I would like this to be on a yearly cadence, and even if that meant slightly fewer episodes.
Or even just like little specials. We have like you were asking if we're going to spin out and do more like 3 episode specials, like 3 15 or 20 minute episodes as their own little release at some other point in time, like all under this sort of Secret Level Presents, brand.
Which
Anna just turned the lights off. She's like, "Fuck this! Turn the lights off."
No, but we would like to get on a yearly cadence. It's just that requires a lot of faith. Like they would have had to say,
totally.
A year ago, to do that.
Yeah, listen, I'm just happy that they agreed to do a second season. I just think that sometimes it loses, when it takes 2 years or 3 years, it loses momentum. And when it comes back, people are like, "What was that show again?"
I mean, if we want to become annual, like we'd have to start a whole new team. It's kind of incredible. I think there's like 8 or 10 folks in LA just around the corner at our studio who run the entire series. It is unbelievable, like how much goes through like a handful of people. But if we wanted to, if we it takes another 2 years for this one. If we after that or those 2 years in year 3 want another one, we'd have to start that season next year.
And it is odd. I mean, just the way this works, about probably a third of the episodes are games that haven't come out yet, like Exodus and things like that. And so that or that's how shit like Concord happens, right? It's they have a release date and we work towards that. We were actually finished with the episode when we found out what was happening with and then the game came
many
out.
months.
Yeah. So there was no way we weren't going to release it. And it like mystifies people that we would release
all the requests to release it. Just make another one and drop it in.
Yeah, we couldn't do that. And the other thing that mystifies me is people go, "This seems like a blatant exercise in commerce," and I'm like, "Well, fuck yeah, it is. It isn't. So is movies making. You go to buy a fucking ticket and you buy fucking popcorn at the movie. It's all commerce. We don't get to make this unless." They sell games. So I'm sorry. But that's the way it works.
That.
But I also I don't see anything wrong with that because I love games like I love movies. So we have to pay people to make them. And
just stop reading the comments, man.
So
it pisses me off.
I know we got to wrap. So I just want to go through some things just real fast that I wrote down. Did you try going after Nintendo, or was that like no effing chance? Okay, moving on. There are like one of the things, like video games go back, to the 70s, and there are like Atari, ColecoVision, and television. Like I can keep listing these classic consoles. How much are you looking at those things? And
I love it. Yes, we'd love to get some of those in. I mean, like, because we were just talking about like if you're playing something like, I don't know, Centipede, let's say, right? There's what's happening on the screen, and there's what's on the side of the cabinet. And the side of a cabinet is an elf with a wand, right? But like on the game is just a pixel. I'm like, what is that story about? Like, it's just fascinating. Like, and Pong, like, I don't know what that would be, but yes, it would be. I think those are where we can. I think when you take big AAA titles, it's a little trickier because they're still trying to find their feet. They have big narratives they're trying to tell, so we have to sort of escape between the slalom gates. But with those sort of titles, yes, it's exciting.
I also want to pitch Double Dragon.
I think we tried them.
Who makes
I don't actually know who makes Double Dragon.
I remember
Tatio? No. I can't remember the company, but like those kind of side-scrolling fighting games. Yeah. Like I'm just pitching,
Flashback
Metal
was
Slug.
my dream one.
I could keep going. Like there's so many.
Yeah, I know. There's so many.
There's so many.
It's crazy. Yeah.
Exactly.
Berserk.
So what about? Sorry.
No, that's fine.
I'm curious with like EA
Dragon's
Sports
Lair.
or sports games. Is that something that even interests you?
No. We like one of our producers, Mike Rosemeyer, is a massive sports fan, and I think it is killing him that we don't have a sports game in there yet. But yeah, I think it's crazy not to because of how big of this sort of gaming, clubhouse sports games represent.
Well, you also just think about the popularity of like the National Football League or those kinds of sports.
I mean, FIFA dwarfs all of those, but yes,
exactly.
Some of the games are they feel like they're too big. They don't need us. There's that, because on some level this is helping them in theory sell games. So they're like, fuck you, we don't need your show. we sell enough games without you. I feel like FIFA might be in that category. However, if any of you know people.
This is my last thing, because otherwise Anna's going to literally kill me. One of the things about animation is, and just everything, is certain things cost more money. So I'm curious, can you sort of pull the veil back on like what costs more money when you're making animated stuff? Like, is it a oneer? Is it when there's a lot of cuts? Is it like what costs the most when you're doing animation, and how do you decide as producers and directors where and when to deploy the resources to like spend that money to make that shot awesome?
I remember when we did you asked Kirkman that question and he was like, for Invincible, and he was like, walking, and I was like, yeah, it's not the same for us. Dialogue is very difficult, especially with human characters, because of how critical we are. But from a directing, like there's a shot in Warhammer where there's a shot in Warhammer where you're trailing one of the Astartes in the canyon, and we're on them for like a minute, and it's just slaughter. So you plant a flag as a director. You go like, I want to do this, and you get a couple of them like throughout the episode, and everyone bids it, and you realize what you've got left and how many other children you have to kick out of the house in order to pay for these ones. So you just sort of, you decide what's important to you. But those big oneers are incredibly expensive. Yes, that and
I was pretty shocked the Honored Kings one, how much you got, because changing environments would be one that is a pretty costly thing, and that whole environment is constantly changing. It's not like people walk into a room, you light it, and then they talk to each other for 5 minutes. It's like every fucking shot, the background is changing and the camera's swirling and effects and animation and cloth. It all gets super expensive.
There's a moment in high end CG where you've got one character on screen, and if you've got 1,000 characters on screen, it's actually it's manageable. Like that's a crowd system. This is a hero character. When you put like we did in Warhammer, like 10 or 20 high-res characters, all fully animated facial, it gets very complicated very quickly. And even just the sort of hardware required to run those scenes is very complicated. So, but it's always like, there's always like, I think you always want some fear. Like you pitch a shot to your team and you want to be, and you can see them going like, oh, no fucking idea how we're going to do that yet. And we you know, there are some shots that you always have in your head, and you're sort of waiting for the technology to catch up. And I think there's some we'd like to deploy on season 2.
And I would. This is like under the hood but since you asked for animation, it would be impossible to do this show if we didn't like rigorously enforce sort of a favored nation's plan of attack, which means Honor of Kings doesn't get more money per minute than Exodus gets per minute. For everybody is getting the same treatment. You may decide I'm gonna put my efforts into character animation in this one, and I'm gonna put it in visual effects in that one, but they all get the same piggy bank, because nobody would sign up if we said, yeah, well, we're gonna take all the money and put it in Warhammer. So it's a real kudos to our producers, some of whom are here, to solve that fucking jujitsu puzzle of money.
Yeah, it's also why they don't speak, and they're in a canyon in a dark cave.
Yeah, but Warhammer, I think not our producers. Yeah.
I think a lot of people know how TV's made and how movies.
Although they probably feel that way much.
I think a lot of people understand how TV is made and movies are made, but they don't. Like animation is sort of like still a weird thing, because you don't see the behind the scenes of people working on a shot for months or whatever it is.
Wouldn't be terribly exciting.
Yeah. Like I think that there's just a lot of stuff to still learn about how this is all done, which is not illustrated in, it's just not.
You'd have to watch
there.
it in time lapse because that's otherwise. Yeah.
So I really want to say a sincere congratulations for such a successful season 1 and for the renewal so fast.
Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, Steve.
And
thank you guys for watching.
And I also want to give a huge thank you to Anna and everyone at Prime Video for teaming up with us to do this. Seriously, thank you all so much for coming out tonight, and thank you. And
thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you.